Very good. So that is an example of the Middle Ages. So in the Middle Ages, that's where we would see a lot of knights and we would see a lot of castles. Does everybody know what knights are? Yeah, with their knights in shining armor, castles, a lot of horses. That's some things that we would see in the Middle Ages. So that's a great example of something that reminds you of Eric. How about Renee? Does this setting remind you of anything?
The setting kind of reminds me of like a lot of fairy tales that I have read in the past and now. Because I like read books where there's like a fairy kingdom and there's like a castle and there's a king and a queen. It kind of reminds me of it because there's a big castle there.
Right, exactly. That's what I was also thinking. So I would also think about fairy tales and like magic, right? A lot of magic that you would see. So what's an example of a fairy tale that you read that reminds you of this? Can you think of a story that you've read?
Yeah.
Okay, which one?
It's like fairies, like small fairies. So what they do is that they save. So there's an evil villain who tries to take over the whole world, and there are fairies, and two people are friends with the fairies, but the two people don't like only know them, and it has to be a secret. So once they return things, they get gifts from the fairy king and queen. So they go to like the castle, or the fairies just bring it and gives them.
Great. Wow. Okay, that's a great story. So that's a good thing that the setting reminds you of that. Eric, does this remind you of any story that you've read about the Middle Ages?
Not really.
Not really. It just reminds you of the Middle Ages, like in general, right? Yeah. But me too. Me too. Okay, so that's great. Good job, guys. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the third aspect of the things that I was telling you about in the beginning. So can somebody give an example of the event here? What is the main event that's happening? Okay, Eric, go ahead.
The main event is that he climbs this beanstalk and just steals the hen.
Exactly. Great. So Renee, do you agree with that? Yes, good job. So that is the main event. He climbs the beanstalk, Jack, and then he goes into the castle with the giant and he steals the hen. That is the main event that's happening in this story. Okay, how would you describe the event? Can somebody tell me how you would describe it? You can describe this in multiple ways. You can't really be wrong here. You just have to tell me, how would you describe it? Yeah, Eric? You questioning it a little bit?
It's like about like a event of a myth.
Yes, of a myth, right? That's what you were saying? Yes? Great. Okay, does everybody know what a myth is? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, great. Okay, so now good. So that's a great example of how you would describe the event. Renee, is there a different way you would describe the event? No? Okay, so yeah, that's a great example. So a myth is an excellent example of how you would describe this. Something that might not necessarily be real because it's very fictional and it's very fairy tale based, right? Yeah? Okay, so let's move on to the next question. How does this event affect the rest of the story? Okay, let's talk about that. So the event, remember, was Jack climbing the beanstalk and stealing the hen. So can somebody give me how this event affects the rest of the story?
I think the event affects the rest of the story is because the beanstalk is mostly the most important thing because it's about the whole entire book. If they don't have the beanstalk, then why would it be called Jack and the Beanstalk?
Exactly, that's definitely right. There would be no way to call this story Jack and the Beanstalk if the beanstalk didn't even exist in the first place, okay? How about Eric? Do you want to give me another example about how this event affects the rest of the story?
This event affects the rest of the story by if Jack doesn't steal the hen, then maybe there won't